Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffen. Joining me always is Blake Harrison. How are you?
Very good, very good. How are you?
I bounced back this week after last
Oh yeah.
week's. Hello, welcome to the MMA
You are
Fan
more
Show.
bouncy today,
Yeah, I
actually.
thought I'd add a bit more zip to it as I felt like I let everyone down last week. Um, Well, look, we've got lots to talk about today. We'll be discussing everything that went down London. Were people overwhelmed? Were people underwhelmed? We'll dive into all of that. Not before we
Yeah.
mention today's sponsor. Let me just play the jingle for you.
Fat candy.
There we go. That's right. That is the official sponsor of the MMA Fan Show. It's freeze-dried sweets, not sweet-dried sweets. It's freeze-dried sweets. Go check them out, and you
Sweet dried
they're
sweets.
sweetie dried sweets, freeze dried sweets. Go check them out. They're all over the TikToks and the Instagrams, and you can go over there, or you can head straight to their shop. And before you check out, just use that discount code Sweet MMA. Save yourself some pennies. And but go give them a follow on the socials anyway, and drop my message and go. We heard about you because of the MMA Fan Show. Right. UFC London, Blake Harrison. Before we dive into
Yes.
it, can I
Hmm.
ask you, because we had different opinions on it last
Yeah.
week. I was super excited for it, and you said that you didn't think. I mean, you wasn't saying that you was underwhelmed by it, but what you did do was compare it to previous UFC London cards,
Hmm.
and maybe they weren't quite as stacked with familiar names as what we got at
Hmm.
the weekend. So with all of that in mind, last Saturday, did it deliver much for you, or did you feel a little underwhelmed?
Um, I think overall it was what I expected. So I wasn't underwhelmed because I didn't expect huge things from it as an overall card.
Okay.
But having said that, there was some great moments on the card that maybe I wasn't expecting. And then there was some things that were maybe even slightly worse than I expected and stuff like that. So I think overall my assumption of what the card would be, I think again, I think you look at these things a lot of the time from the perspective of I am a UK MMA fan. I love my Cage Warriors. When I get to see those guys in the UFC, it does a lot for me, and that's that's I think that's where your perspective of where you come from with a lot of these things. So you get hyped for some fighters and things that I am maybe less hyped for. It's not that I obviously don't want to see those fighters do well or that I don't enjoy Cage Warriors. It's just I think I sometimes look at it from a global fight fan point of view. And from that point of view, this card had an amazing main event in terms of what was at stake.
Hmm.
And then outside of that, it didn't have a huge amount else going on for it. When it comes to like high stakes things, things that are storylines that move the division forward, maybe it had the Christian Leroy Duncan, the Leeds A fight that we can talk about. But outside of that, I don't think there was a huge amount. But as a UK MMA fan, I did have great moments watching Nathaniel Wood, Mason Jones, stuff like that. But no, overall, I think it was what I sort of expected it to be.
Okay. Okay. Well, look.
But did it deliver for you? I say you were hyped going to the card. How did you come out of
Um,
it?
50-50. I think
Yeah. Okay.
I could only really echo what you said, which is there was moments which I'm really excited to talk about, and there was also moments that were far from exciting that I'm actually excited to talk about because I think a lot of them moments have been the real focal points of the
Yeah.
weekend. But look, let's start at the top, and that was obviously Manchester's Lauren Murphy fighting Mobsar for what was, we presume, a title eliminator. Um, Look, it was scored 48-46, 48-46, 47-47.
Hmm.
I see. I don't think this was a robbery. I don't think it
No.
was, but I thought Lerone done enough. I gave Lerone the first 3 rounds, and I'm
Right.
curious as to what you made of it.
So you scored it what? Talk me through your scoring first. 1, 2, and 3, Lerone,
Yep. And
and then
obviously the last two,
4,
Mobsar.
even with the point deduction.
Well, when was the point deduction? Round four?
4, yeah. So would that have been a draw?
I
And then the
guess that would have
last
been
one,
a draw in that round, and then the last round like, definitely was Mobsar's round.
right? So you effectively, I know that it should be, I don't know, 48, 46 for your scorecard then, or
Hmm.
something like that. But let's for sake of making it easier for my tiny brain, you're going sort of 3-1 Lerone.
Yeah.
I I scored it a draw.
Okay.
I scored it 2-2, and then the low blow was a draw round because of the point deduction. But I have to say, I thought rounds 1, 2, and 3 were pretty close,
Yeah.
but I scored rounds 1 and 2 for Lerone. I scored round 3 for Evloev, round 5 for Evloev, and then round 4 I scored the draw. Evloev for me won the round without the point deduction, but then you got to
Sure.
include the point
Sure.
deduction 9-9 round. So I thought it was a draw. Um, I think that um, I say it's not a robbery because I think if you scored round 1 for Mobzar, I got no
Yeah.
problem with it. If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
scored
Yeah. Yeah.
round 2, I think I lent more Lerone. But again, if you scored round 3 for Lerone, I haven't got a problem with it. I thought all of those rounds were pretty close.
It,
So yeah, but the draw for me felt I thought it was going to be scored a draw. I really did. I didn't think Mobzar was going to win it. So when they said 48, 46, 48, 46, I was like, oh. So I was intrigued which way that was going to go. I agreed with the third judge who scored it a draw.
did you enjoy the fight?
Yeah, I did. I did. I thought it was a more exciting fight than what it could have been, but there was some weird stuff going on. Um, Firstly, for the first 3 rounds, I was like, what is Mobzar's game plan?
Yeah.
Mobzar has a clear advantage in the ground game.
Hmm.
So why did he not shoot for a take? His first shot for a takedown was round 3. I was like, what's he doing? Like, absolutely atrocious game plan from Mobzar's point of view, as far as I'm concerned. Um, and then we had this weird moment where Lerone did something to his hip.
Yeah.
I don't know quite what happened or exactly even when it happened. I don't know if it was round 4 or round 3, what happened to Lerone's hip, but something was off there. And that either coincidentally or because of that, I don't know. That's when Mobzar started being able to take him down. And when you think of how important your hips are to sprawl and keep people off you and all of that kind of stuff, Lerone's then fighting. I don't know if I one not with one hand tied behind his back, with one hip
Yeah. Yeah.
tied
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
his posterior and can't move his hip. You know that old saying.
Look, I do think there's a lot to, to pull apart what you've just said there, and the obvious thing to do for me in such an important fight in regards to who should fight for the belt next, the obvious thing in such a close fight that had some, did he pop it? Is to run it back. Now, listen,
No,
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 I
hang on,
knew
hang
you were
on,
going
hang
to
on,
say
hang on,
no.
no, no, no,
That's a
no, no, no.
terrible idea.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Right, but no one's gonna want to see it. Right, no one wants to see that. Like even like as a huge Lerone Murphy fans that we are, I don't think anybody is going to want to watch that fight again. So what that says to me is, even in the post-fight presser, they sort of put it on Dana saying, right, Mobsar's obviously next for the title. Then he went, oh, we'll have to wait and see what. And it's like, no one wants to watch Evloev fight. It's just not fun. It's
But I
not
didn't think it was a
fun.
bad fight.
But it
What was
wasn't.
not
But
fun about it? It was fine fight. It was a high level mixed martial arts fight. He did not lay and pray.
mm.
So what was wrong with it from
Well,
Mobzar's
I
point of view?
definitely
What
think
more could
he lent
Mobzar have done?
a lot more on that in the latter rounds. But
Yeah, but it wasn't. He was trying to go for finishes and stuff. I don't.
yeah,
I didn't think he was laying and praying or anything like that.
no, 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 I'm not saying that. I just didn't find it a particularly entertaining fight, and maybe just because the fight before kind of delivered a lot more. But do you think they're going to give Evloev the shot now?
I don't know, man. They should. They should. Unequivocally, he is the guy. He's undefeated. say what you want. Maybe some people think Lerone won this fight. I certainly thought Arnold Allen beat him previously, but the bottom line is he is an undefeated fighter on the, that's what his resume says. Volk wants to fight the best of the best. Mobzar is currently the best of the best in the featherweight division. The only other guy you could give it to is Jean Silva, and I hate the idea of that because Jean Silva's only won one fight after getting beaten badly by Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez smashed him up, and then he's gone and beaten Arnold Allen, who was out of the cage for a relatively long time. That's not enough to get a title shot, in my opinion. I do not want to see Jan Silva versus Volk. I want to see Mobzar versus Volk. That's what I want. Same as I want to see Arman Sarukian versus Ilia Topuria. I don't want to see Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria. But given the UFC, particularly on this new Paramount thing in 2026, I mean, meritocracy we've spoken about for years now is not really always the way the UFC operate, and they seem to have really doubled down on that over the last 3 or 4 months. So I don't know, man. If they made Volk versus Jan Silva, I would not be shocked. But I really don't think that's what they should do. I really think they should make it Mobzar versus Volk.
Yeah.
What about you? Mentioned which way do you think it's going to go?
Again, I can only echo what you said. Like, I think Jan Silva is a much more of a fan favourite. He's got a very big personality, and sometimes, no pun intended, it's who barks the loudest. Sometimes gets the shot, and Mobzar, he hasn't got that element about him really. He's not got star quality, and he's not a fan favourite. Is he the right person for the fight? 100%, he should be fighting for that belt. He's proven, he's beaten everyone, and he's right. But I don't think the UFC are fans of him. And yeah, you mentioned Diego Lopez a moment ago. Have you seen that him and Lerone have been having some back and forth today?
No, but that makes perfect sense as a fight for me. But the problem is Lopez is booked for the White House card against Steve Garcia. I did have in my notes, I would say Lerone could fight the winner of Lopez Garcia.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. However, the UFC really don't like Mobzar, but I'm not sure that they're huge Lerone fans either, which is why, I mean, Lerone should have got the title shot previously, and they gave it to Lopez instead, which was just criminal in my eyes. I wouldn't be surprised if they, depending on how long Lerone needs to be out for with this hip and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if they give him like a Kevin Vallejos, which is not right. Like, Vallejos would need another fight before he would get anywhere near like a Lerone. But the way the UFC are going, the way Lerone's been treated historically, I would not be shocked if they go, yeah, let's give this 24-year-old stud who's just broken into the top 15 Lerone Murphy and just see what happens. So, yeah, I don't know what kind of position Lerone's in, but any beef he can have with Lopez on Twitter is brilliant because Lopez, win or lose at the White House, excuse me, is a great fight for Lerone. Lopez coming off a loss to Steve Garcia, that's fine. He's still a big name. Lerone can fight him anywhere. It can main event a fight night or be a good fight on a main card of a pay-per-view. Lopez, Lerone, whether Lopez beats Garcia or not, is the fight to make because Lopez cannot get another title shot. We say that, but you never know with the UFC. But I don't think he can get another title shot without putting together 2 or 3 good wins. So Lopez, Lerone for me makes an awful lot of sense. So keep that beef going. If you're Lerone Murphy, keep that beef going as much as you can and try and make that fight happen after the White House card.
Agreed, mate. Agreed. Co-main featherweight, Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell Jr. Oh, what a fight! What a fight!
Yeah, it was a good fight. I wasn't. I've got nothing like. Yeah, it was a good fight. I thought Luke did well. It was weirdly positioned maybe in a sense because we'd had what I thought could be a fight of the year contender a few fights prior. And then immediately before it, we had one of the worst fight, if not maybe the worst fight we'll get in 2026. So maybe it was kind of weirdly positioned. It was a good fight. It was by no means the best fight on the card.
Yeah.
But go on, what do you want to say about it?
I thought it was really good. I thought, look, it was great to see Luke Riley go 3 rounds. Yes, I'd love to have seen him get him out of there. You know, he post-fight obviously was very disappointed that he didn't get him out of there. But for me, I just think your second fight in the UFC, you've just, you know, you've walked out to the O2 with such pressure on your shoulders and just put in 3 solid rounds. Like, perfect experience this early in his career. Perfect experience.
I agree with that, and I think that is good, and I'm sure it will do Luke Riley really, really well. And obviously, I want to see him do really, really well going off the back of this, and I think he can do. But how do you think the UFC saw it? Do you think the UFC saw it as, we're giving you a huge opportunity to be co-main over other people that are ranked and are bigger, quote unquote, names? We're giving you an opportunity over them, and we're giving you a guy that is by no means like Curtis Campbell. Oh, Stu Whiffin, come on, mate. The etiquette, podcasting etiquette has gone out the window for Stu Whiffin. The phone's going off. But like Curtis Campbell got a guy who was a really tough debut fight. I don't think the levels were the same with Mike Aswell Jr. And I think the UFC could have been thinking, we're giving you this platform, you need to go and get a knockout. Or do you not think that? Do you think they were just like, no, whatever? I just wonder if the UFC set him up to have a huge moment. And I'm not, there's no knock on Luke Riley, but do you think the UFC could have been slightly disappointed?
Possibly. I think they wanted some fireworks, because I think they probably looked either side of that fight at Lerone and Movsar, and obviously what we're going to get onto, MVP versus Sam Patterson, and thought both of them fights have, you know, they probably had a rough idea they might have gone the distance, or, you know, certainly they probably thought the Movsar fight might have been a bit more of a lay and pray. So let's get someone in that wants to stand and brawl against someone. Look, let's also, like, Michael Aswell Jr., he was game, mate. Like, you know, I thought he put in a fantastic performance as well. I thought it was just a really, really solid, like, essentially boxing match. And I really enjoyed it. And I think, you know, I do think when you're put there on your second fight in an organisation, then, you know, it's not like he's come from Bellator or the PFL. He's come from Cage Warriors, which is a fantastic organisation, which pretty much most people on this card from the UK have been champs in, or come through the Cage Warriors organisation. But they've given him this huge moment, and I think, if anything, they might have underrated Michael Aswell a little bit, because I thought he was a tough bastard, and Luke Riley, we know he hits hard, and the combination, some of the body shots he was throwing, absolutely fantastic. I think, look,
he takes a punch as well. I mean, he got clipped, and it didn't seem to bother him at all, really. Did it?
Absolutely. I think that was just a solid bit of experience there, and on the biggest stage, and I just think it can only get better from here. Does he get a co-main anytime soon? Probably not for another couple of fights, but I think, like, in London they wanted some fireworks, and he didn't get to finish. He was more pissed off than anyone, but I thought he put in a fantastic performance. Look, I don't know what's next for him. Like, we're in danger of featherweight being, more Brits are going to end up fighting Brits, I think, at some point, because I think there's going to be a bottleneck, you know, around that top 15, top 10. Like, Arnold's on the, you know, look, yes, he come up short against Silva, but, you know, he's on the peripheries of the top 10 now, into the 15s. Nathaniel, he's going to be knocking on the doors of that next fight. Surely we'll get to that. Luke Riley now, you know, I'm sure he's going to be looking for someone around that point. And you know, I'm not putting Lerone in the mix for that just yet. I think he's not. You know, I don't think he's fallen very far from the weekend.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a big possibility that all of a sudden we might start seeing, you know, another potential matchup. I just hope the UFC saw at the weekend that matching up two guys from the UK is a really fucking bad idea.
Oh, mate. Well, yeah. Look, best of luck to Luke Riley. It was a good performance. I feel like maybe I'm in a bad mood and it feels like I'm shitting on. I'm not. I think it was brilliant. I just wondered with the build up to it, what the UFC were expecting from that fight. But I think, as you say, 3 rounds, co-main event at the O2, an incredible experience for someone like Luke Riley, and I'm sure it will only do him doing well moving
Yeah.
forward. I told you.
I just
I
yawned
told
then.
you
I
it's
just
bad.
yawned then when I looked at it. I just looked at
Yeah.
what we're talking about next and I yawned.
I mean, the highlight of this fight was Michael Venom Page walking down to Michael Jackson's "They Don't Really Care About Us." Me and Pip were texting about it on our group. Absolutely, like, brilliant moment of kind of defiance. Talk. It felt very pointed at the UFC that they're not giving him enough fights, that they're not, you know, doing what they should be doing with fighter pay. All of these messages that had he put on a decent performance, we would have, you know, been talking about more. But instead, it sort of makes the UFC go, why should we bother with you? Like, it's a shame, man, because I think Michael Venom Page is such an entertainer. I think he can do it in and out of the octagon. You look at his fight with Kevin Holland. You look at loads of his Bellator fights and all that. Like, Michael Venom Page can be incredibly entertaining inside the cage. The Shara Bullet fight was a decent fight as well. Like, Michael Venom Page is great. I love watching his fights. This was poor, and obviously it takes two to tango. But when you're MVP and you're the ranked guy and you're a big star, and I just felt like he should have done more in there. I know it's not necessarily his game; he's a counter striker and all that stuff. But I feel like I feel like both guys have come out of it having lost.
Oh,
Sam Patterson,
100%.
Sam Patterson has lost, and he's lost the momentum. 4-fight first round finish streak now broken because he was fighting a guy that's got such a unique and difficult style to deal with.
Right.
And Michael
Listen,
Venom Page has lost because all those fans in the O2 that were cheering him were booing him 5-10 minutes later. And so in my eyes, he's lost. And I think in the eyes of kind of like general MMA fans, when they're looking at MVP's relationship with the UFC, I'm looking at it going, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't give him a new contract and just go, see you later. MVP will be on the new Netflix card at some point. Not necessarily the next one coming up, but yeah, I think they'll drag their heels, the UFC, and giving him another fight. I don't think they'll be desperate to give him a fight quickly. I don't think they'll treat him very well. And I think that they will run down his contract and then just not renew it, given that performance. Unless, again, I don't know how many fights he's got left on his contract. If he's just got one fight left on his contract, I think he needs to go out there and do one of his MVP highlight reel Pokeball finishes.
but can he
And if
do
that
that?
doesn't
Because
happen,
I went to that. I was K side at that fight you're talking about against Cyborg. That was a long time ago.
he can definitely still do it.
Do
The
you
way
think?
he moves, yeah, he can definitely. Like,
But
I
what?
feel like he had fun moments against Kevin Holland.
Yeah, but
I
I don't know
definitely think he can
how
do
old's
it, but he
Kevin
needs to
Holland.
write.
Like you know, my point is with MVP, right? Look, no one was more happy to see him in the UFC, you know, than me. Like, what an absolute legend, you know, he is. Did he come to the UFC too late? I think he did. Like, I'd much
Yeah,
rather seen him in there a few years earlier. Um, his whole style is completely based on speed, right? And yes, he was moving really well, but what I thought we saw less of was them like blitz attacks that you used to see a lot more of, and he wasn't doing that as much. And I think if he would have done that, that would have given Sam more of an opportunity to have tried to have clinched him or took him down or even fired back. But he wasn't. He was just bouncing, 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 moving away, circling. And I think like Sam didn't. I mean, you're not going to just. I suppose in the end, you've got to. You've just got to go. Oh fuck it! I've got to bite down on my gum shield and try and make the distance up now against someone who's not standing in front of me. He's constantly moving. But I felt for Sam because, as we discussed last week, you know, MVP is one of the most problematic fighters you can fight. And sometimes it can give you really amazing highlight reels, like we've seen from these Bellator days. But other than that, it can also give you some really boring fights. And MVP told us when we said, "Oh, we'd like to see you fight Wonderboy," he said, "No, it'd just be stalemate." And that's what we got. We got a fighter that's on an absolute tear, like looking fantastic, that could have fought someone and had a really good fight. And they gave him MVP, which was a shame because they're both Brits and obviously, you know, both doing like well. And but as you said, both of them have come out of it losing really. I just think the whole hype around MVP, like I think somebody has sort of pulled the cork out of it and deflated it a little bit. And the fact that you're dissing your organisation with your Wildcat song, look, I agree with a lot of the things that he says, but you know, that I'm sure where he's coming from with that. But also, you put on that fight, which was really, really boring. It was just really boring and disappointing. And you've dissed your boss. And I just think, again, to echo what you said, they're not going to do him any favours now. And I feel sorry for Sam Patterson because he had a lot to try and get his head round in working out Michael Venom Page, and Michael Venom Page didn't really come at him to give him any opportunity to counter strike or whatever. It was just a complete stalemate, and it was really boring. And I think Sam's going to have to probably work a lot harder now to get an half decent opportunity because, you know, we know that he's a lovely guy, but he's not a fan favourite, Sam Patterson. He's not got a huge personality. He's a nice, humble guy. And I think when they're booing one of the biggest personalities in the UFC and you're losing to him, it don't leave you in a very good spot either. So, yeah, I think that nobody, organisation, fans or fighters, come out of that winning at the weekend. It was just a lose.
Yep, we said it beforehand in the previous show. It's awful matchmaking. Should never have been done. You've taken away Sam's momentum. 4-fight first round finish streak. That's the type of stuff where you go, right, we got something exciting here. We got a player. And now he's probably going to have to win 3 more to even get another ranked opponent because that fight in the UFC's eyes just stunk so much.
Yeah.
And MVP, he had beat Shara Bullitt and then beat Jared Cannonier. He was a ranked middleweight. And yes, he had a ranking at welterweight as well, but I think he was higher ranking at middleweight than he was at welterweight. He would have been 2 fights away from a title shot. I don't know why go to welterweight again, and then why take this fight against an unranked guy when you should. It was bad matchmaking, man. The UFC have to hold their hands up. It was bad matchmaking. But at the same time, it's just it's not the UFC thing for Michael Venom Page. I'm really worried now. One of the long-lasting things that it's going to be remembered for is that boring fight. And I don't know how many fights he's got left on his contract to change people's minds. No one can ever say MVP's a boring fighter because look at his highlight reel. You can't say it. But I feel like the casual fans and the ones that just watch the UFC and all that kind of stuff, they might come away from it saying stuff like that and thinking stuff like that. And it's a real shame. It's a real shame. I really hope he gets a good fight and he does something special in that fight, because if he doesn't, as I say, I can just see the UFC going, thanks very much, see you later. And maybe MVP's happy with that because he can go to MVP and maybe earn loads more money at Netflix. So maybe he's happy with that. Yeah. I'll do another fight or 2. I'll make sure I win them, even if it's in a dull fashion. and then I go to Netflix and do something really special.
Yeah.
And Netflix can use his highlight reel maybe because it's a Bellator highlight reel rather than a UFC one
Yeah.
to sell fights. So maybe it's all part of a master plan, and we've got Nick Diaz versus Michael Venom Page coming your way
Well,
in 6 months' time or something. I don't know.
am I right in saying that Mike Perry, did he fight Michael Venom Page in
He did
bare
in bare
knuckle?
knuckle, and he won. I think it was a controversial one, but he won.
Yeah.
So
Get that
yeah,
in the
and
octagon.
get that in the odds. If Mike Perry beats Nate Diaz, Mike Perry versus Michael Venom Page on whatever the next big MMA Netflix card is, makes perfect sense, man. And maybe MVP should try and. Well, I think he's been trying to get fights. The problem is UFC haven't given them to him. But he should maybe try and run that contract down quickly and get a big payday like that. Maybe that's what he should be doing.
Absolutely.
So good
And
luck to him. I hope it works out well.
absolutely. Another person who I think probably really hoped he was in a 3-round boring fight was Austin Lane. That geezer's not catching a break at the moment, is he?
Oh boy, Iwo Baranowski, I think that's his name. It's less than 30 seconds. Right hand, left hand, boom, couple of ground and pound strikes, and it was all over. I think it was about a 28-second fight.
Yeah.
So not, it's a shame that didn't come maybe after the MVP Patterson fight. But I mean, Iwo Baranowski. I mean, it's only Austin Lane, if I can be so rude. So you can't necessarily say where Baranowski's ceiling is yet. But I mean, that's exciting. That was a good one to watch.
Absolutely. Was it this fight that you said was going to be fight of the night? Christian Leroy Duncan versus Roman Dolidze?
No.
It wasn't. Oh, okay. Okay. I must have got that confused then. What did you make of this fight?
It was fun. When Christian Leroy Duncan is coming at you, it must be terrifying.
Yeah.
He's so big, so strong. He moves so well. Terrifying. But I just feel like there's such a hole in that game at the moment. And I think that middleweight does have some good grapplers there. And it's a worry for me that the fact that Dolidze won that third round, or I think he did win that third round. I thought it was close. I think he won that third round. Did he win that third round on the judges'
29-28 on all 3 cards.
I'm assuming it was Dolidze that won the third
Yeah.
round. I think the first round was maybe kind of close-ish, but obviously CLD got better damage in there, and CLD won round 2. So I think you're looking at a situation where you thought maybe Christian Leroy Duncan could get a finish or something like that, but that third round comes out and Dolidze was able to take him down, and Duncan struggled with that. And Dolidze is a good grappler, but he's not the best grappler in that division.
Yeah.
I think you look at Fluffy Hernandez, you look at Brendan Allen, you look at obviously Hamzat Chimaev, even Dricus du Plessis, and you're kind of like, ooh, I'm not sure that I would pick Christian to do well in any of those fights right now, because the blueprint is there. Obviously, Christian Leroy Duncan can hit you with a flying knee, a spinning back elbow, any of these things out of nowhere, and you're going to sleep. But it was, it was both a good win and at the same time worrying for the future, because he's ranked now. And so really, he's only got tough fights left to go. So unless the UFC can tailor-make some matchmaking for the next couple of fights to strikers, and hopefully Christian in the gym between fights can really be working on that takedown defense, I'm concerned for him going forward into any kind of top 10 fight against someone that's got some decent grappling.
Okay.
What did you think?
I like watching him fight. I think when he starts throwing, he's really dynamic and he really mixes it up as well. Do I think he's world champion material? I don't. Not currently. As you said, like there are gaps in his game, but you get into a position now where you're going to have to kind of work on that even more, and your competition's going to get harder, and so your game's going to you're going to have to raise your game to that as well. So I think he's in the right place for it now. He's going to have to sort of dig in a little bit and be a little bit more Well, Randy, but as you say, it only takes one shot with him, and and he can absolutely start you. And yeah, I think he's great. I think he's great. He's got a number on him now, and I think it's great that he's going to have some big tests put in front of him because if he comes through them, then who knows where the ceiling is? Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I do think he needs to quickly repair that hole in his game in the takedown defense and all that kind of stuff, or just avoid a grappler in his next fight and try and make sure it's a
Once you get
striking match.
into numbered, when you got a number to your name, ultimately you're going to be fighting some grapplers. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to coast your way through without having to face them because the division's got plenty in it as you listed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to happen. So and I don't think anyone's going to be more aware of that than Christian Leroy Duncan. So yeah, fingers crossed we get to see some exciting developments there. You touched on Curtis Campbell, who lost his debut second round. Look, all I'm going to say is losing your UFC debut. I would say is not always a bad thing. I think look obviously what Sam Patterson done off of losing in London, then went on a 4-fight absolute tear. Second fight in the UFC for Lonnie. Look what happened to Lonnie. Got absolutely put to sleep, and now look where he's at.
Magomed Ankalaev.
Absolutely.
You became a UFC champion. What was his debut against Paul Craig? Got beat in the final second of that fight.
Yeah.
So losing your UFC debut doesn't mean anything. And also, let's be real. He was up against a really tough guy. I mean, Silva has only lost one fight in the UFC, and do you know who that was against? Kevin Vallejos, who I think could go on and be a champion. It's the equivalent of 3 years ago losing your debut to Ilia Topuria.
Yeah.
And then going, oh look, he's brilliant. So no shame in that. I think maybe that's not a great equivalent. People are going to be jumping on me now for overdoing it for Kevin Vallejos, but I do think he's very good. So I think if your only loss in the UFC is to Kevin Vallejos, you're a good fighter, and that was just a tough start for Curtis Campbell. Doesn't mean Curtis Campbell cannot come back and do wonderful things in the UFC. I'm sure he will. He'll learn. He'll move on. He'll be fine.
Absolutely.
The next fight, oh my goody gosh, this could be a fight of the year contender.
100%.
This was incredible. Mason Jones,
former guest of the show,
take a bow. Former guest of the show, Mason Jones, take a bow, both of you. What a fight. Round one, Solah drops Jones with like a spinning back elbow. Then Jones just keeps going, lands that huge knee that absolutely caused a huge gash on the side of
when they cleaned that in between rounds, I was like,
nasty.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, that looked nasty. And then round two, I thought Jones did very, very well, landing knees to further cut Solah's cheek. Big head kick too. Was that right at the start of the round as well? Wobbled him with a head kick. And Solah had some nice moments, really ripping into the body as well. Like great fight. And then round three, Jones just kept going. And by the end of the fight, I felt if that fight was 10 seconds longer, Goddard, I think it was Goddard, would have had to step in and stop the fight because he was teeing off with knees, Mason Jones, towards the end of that with Solah. Solah just looked gassed out, just completely done. And it felt like Mason Jones out-willed him.
Yeah.
Mason Jones just had that dragon heart and just out-willed him.
I mean, Axel Solah's heart was a beast of a heart because it was such a great fight. Both of them were just tough bastards, and but I do think in that last round, Solah was just gassing a little bit, and I think Mason Jones just thought, right, I'm going to just put it up again now and try and get the finish, and just an absolute savage, Mason Jones, and. Yeah, I'm so excited to see what they're going to give him next because give him someone numbered now because since he's he come to the UFC, had sort of mixed results, lost, went back to Cage Warriors, got the belt back at Cage Warriors, then comes back to the UFC and has just been fantastic. So yeah, absolute props to him. And when you put on fights like that, I just hope the UFC are going to give him something really special now.
Yeah, I mean, the difficult thing is lightweight is just so stacked. But when you put on fight of the night performances like that, I do think the UFC look on you favourably. Um, you look at the lightweight rankings, you've got Ferrezian, Manuel Torres, Michael Chandler's at 13. I mean, from a really selfish point of view, and for Mason Jones, that's a fight I'd love to see him get. I don't think Michael Chandler's going to fight Mason Jones. Benil Dariush is there as well as someone that he could fight. So there's people there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mason Jones gets another unranked guy just because lightweight is so stacked. But hopefully this performance is really going to make the UFC push him. He's on a 3-fight win streak since returning to the UFC. So yeah, is he now on a 4-fight win streak after that one? I'm not sure. I'll have to
Yeah, no,
look it up.
I'm not too
But
sure.
obviously, like phenomenal performance from Mason Jones. And as we've mentioned a few times now, 2026 is all about stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, 3-fight win streak in the UFC, a 7-fight win streak overall, including his Cage Warriors return after losing in the UFC prior to that. So yeah, so riding high, should it be great, like really high confidence as well. Yeah, good luck to Mason Jones. That was such a phenomenal fight. I genuinely think the stakes weren't high enough for it to necessarily win fight of the year. I'm sure there's going to be other fights as the year goes on where we go, oh my God, we had this title fight that was insane, whatever it might be. But in terms of just an all-out war, a brawl of just any level, Mason Jones, Axel Solah, if that's not in like the top 5 fights of the year by the end of the year, we're going to be in for one hell of a year of fights.
Yeah.
So that was phenomenal. What was next?
Back to featherweight, and yeah, former guest of the show, Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah.
Uh, just solid performance. Solid performance. You always going to get that whenever you watch Nathaniel Wood fight, and I really hope, as we've just said for Mason Jones, I really hope that they just give Nathaniel a ranked opponent now. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what else he's got to do, because he's just looking great every time, and yeah, I think he deserves a ranked opponent. And who you give him, I don't know, but just keep him away from the Brits. But yeah, I think it's time they gave him someone with a number by their name in the featherweight division. Do you agree?
I completely agree. I think it's a bit of a travesty he hasn't been given a ranked opponent
Yeah,
beforehand. I mean, I thought this was a very close, high level striking match. And I feel like, again, game plan wise, I was looking at it going, Nate, just try for a takedown. Please go for a takedown. I was screaming at TV as I take him down because I was worried. Cater, I think, is a very good fighter and he can hit hard. He's a good fighter. But Wood just, oh man, he did so well with it. I mean, it was close. It was a split decision. It was very close. And again, it's another decision for Nathaniel, which I think sometimes the UFC don't look favourably upon. However, you can't keep putting this man down. You can't keep keeping him down. 7 out of his last 8 fights, he's won. And that's since he's moved to featherweight. So he's moved up from bantamweight and won 7 of his last 8. And the fight he lost was to Naimov, who was cheating. He was grabbing the fence and kicking him in the nuts and doing everything. Naimov was just
lots of it
cheating.
as well. Lots
of it. That's, so as far as I'm concerned, Nathaniel Wood is maybe one of the most underrated guys in the UFC. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be a champion one day or anything, but you can't keep stopping this guy from getting the opportunity to fight ranked opposition. Like, I think Josh Emmett is coming off of a bad loss to Vallejos. You could give him Josh Emmett. Patricio Pitbull's fighting Aaron Pico. The winner of that will be ranked about 13th. You could go there. I'm trying to see what else is there. David Onama is there. Ezequiel Costa is about to fight Arnold Allen. The loser of that fight could fight Nathaniel Wood. Again, I don't want to see 2 Englishmen fight each other or 2 Brits fight each other. I want to see Arnold Allen and Nathaniel Wood kept apart. But as you pointed out, there's a few Brits in there, and you know that we might have to get used to them fighting each other a little bit. Um, yeah, if Steve Garcia loses to Lopez at the White House card, you can do that fight. Like there are certainly a lot of options there. I think Josh Emmett would be the one I'd like to see because I think that is a very winnable fight for Nathaniel. He still has to be careful, but I think Josh Emmett and Nathaniel Wood is a fight I'd like to see. They're both beyond probably a similar time frame
Yeah.
because Nathaniel was just in a bit of a war, and Emmett obviously got done by Fajayos. So yeah, any of those for me make a lot of sense. I would love to see Nathaniel Wood get a ranked opponent. I think it really is overdue for him to get a ranked opponent.
What other fights do you want to discuss that went down?
Uh, None really. If I'm going to say his name correctly, Kondratavicius looked very good against Tricoli, but maybe he could have got a finish in that fight and he didn't. And that is kind of it, man. I know Chanel Dyer had her debut and looked good, got a good finish. So what's next for her? I'm not sure, but there's not a huge amount I want to talk about.
I thought Brando Perisic looked pretty dangerous. Got Louis Sutherland out of there very quickly. I thought he.
I was just annoyed because my kids were in the room at the time of his fight, and obviously he dropped a C-bomb in the middle of his interview, and so I was just like, "Sorry, guys, sorry, he said a bad word." Oh, for God's sake.
And also we should touch on Shamrock, who I've got to be honest, like
I didn't get to watch Shamrock's fight, unfortunately.
He fought the wrong fight. It was you know I messaged him the day before, and he got back to us, and he was just like, I'm going to do, it's the Shem show, I'm going to do my thing, and it was like super hype because obviously he came up short in his debut, and I thought, but in between the second and third round, like his coaches were like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't like what did he call it? Like, the ultimate defender. Like, what are you doing? Like, get in there. Like, get him down. And yeah, it was quite a sort of technical fight, but Shem just didn't do enough, and it was, and like you say, I was sort of screaming at it, thinking this could be your last chance to really do something. And yeah, I hope he's got one fight left on his contract. If he signed a 3-fight deal, I don't know. I hope so. Well, but then also when the fight finished, I don't know if you saw it, but as the fight finished, he sort of backhanded him, and
it was like he wanted him to shake his hand. But his opponent didn't shake his hand.
But do you know why?
Which was a bit petulant.
No. Do you know why?
No.
Did you not see the ceremonial weigh-ins?
No.
Right. So basically, Shem comes out, goes to shake his hand. He then goes to shake Shem's hand, and Shem just laughs and pushes him. So that's why before the fight, he wouldn't shake Shem's hand. And after each round, he wouldn't, Shem would put his hand out and he wouldn't do it. So that's why at the end, like, he didn't want to shake his hand, because when he did offer to shake his hand, he got pushed in the ceremonials. So, I do worry with that kind of. I mean, look, we do see lots of pushing and shoving in the little face-offs now, but you
can't do it. But look at what happened to Mohammed Bakayev.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
Exactly the same. Go on, I'll let you speak then. Sorry.
And it is, and then you do that, and then you follow. Well, look at Makayev. You then follow that up with a pretty dull fight, which is what that fight that Shem had at the weekend, and then you finish it like by then giving him a little dig at the end of the fight. It's like after the bell, it's like, oh, you might not have done yourself any favours there, like, because I don't know. I wonder what the UFC are thinking about him right now, and I hope, because we know that he's a good guy. We know that he's a really good guy, and he's got a fantastic story, and he done great things over in Octagon, and I just hope he gets one more opportunity in the UFC to kind of maybe kind of put that behaviour from the last fight to bed a little bit, and showcase that he's a really good mixed martial artist, but it felt that he didn't show up as he should have at the weekend. Something just he didn't seem to pull the trigger, and it's a shame because he was one of my favourite guests we've had on the show. He was so interesting, and but yeah,
you can't give the UFC headaches if you're not pulling in numbers and if you're not winning fights. As we're seeing in this new era, you can be on unbelievable win streaks. We've seen it with Leon Edwards, Lerone Murphy, Movsar Evloev, Magomed Ankalaev, and the UFC still don't really like them, don't want them to be champions. If you're someone that is on a 2-fight losing streak, or you've lost one, or you haven't proven yourself yet, you haven't got a few wins under your belt in the UFC, and you're pushing people at weigh-ins after a fight, regardless of whether you're pissed off or not or whatever, you're throwing a little backhand in someone's face, the UFC will just go, we don't need it. We put up with it when it's people like Conor McGregor and whoever else causing problems because they are valuable to us. You're on a losing streak. You're not valuable to us. We don't care less. We're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. If you're not someone we think puts bums on seats and wins loads of fights and can sell pay-per-views and PLEs or whatever they're calling it now, they're not going to put up with this stuff. And so for his sake, I hope he gets an opportunity to right that wrong. But I would not be shocked in any way, shape or form if we hear that he's just been released from his contract and he's going back to Octagon or wherever else he needs to go. You've got to be, if you're not valuable in the eyes of the UFC, and make no mistake, unless you are top of the top, they don't see you as valuable. We've seen fighters on win streaks. There was some heavyweights recently. Who was the guy? But was it Martin Buday, or did he fight Martin Buday? A guy that was on a win streak and a heavyweight, and they just kicked him out.
Mm.
Philip Lins is about to fight Ngannou. I think he was on a win streak when they got rid of him. You can be on win streaks and the UFC still go, do you know what, just release him. So if you're losing and you're causing them headaches, I don't think the opportunities are going to be coming very often. So, I think he's got to be careful. And for his sake, I hope he gets another opportunity. Shall we move on to what's going on this weekend?
Yep. Let's do that. So,
Seattle, there's only 2 fights on the card I really want to pay attention to.
Okay.
The main event, Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. I mean, we know that this fight is either one of 2 things. It's either effectively the end of Israel Adesanya as a viable UFC fighter, or it's the return of Israel Adesanya, and we can all, imagine the possibility of him fighting some of the top guys again. Joe Pyfer, the UFC really like him. He's someone that brings it. I think Dana White's, after his Contender Series fight, Dana White came out and said, be more Joe Pyfer. So the UFC clearly is a fan of his. Izzy is on a 3-fight losing streak. He won the belt back, and that means he's lost 4 of his last 5, because he lost to Poatan, won the belt back from Poatan, then lost to Strickland, lost to Dricus, and then lastly lost to Nasruddin Imavov. The last 2 were stoppages as well. Joe Pyfer, to me, is not the level of any of those guys. Joe Pyfer hits very hard. If Izzy gets clipped, he's in big trouble. But I think Imavov, Dricus, maybe even Strickland are better than Joe Pyfer. I mean, Strickland's so weird. I just don't know where to put Strickland. But certainly Poatan, Imavov and Dricus are way better fighters than Pyfer, in my opinion. So this is an opportunity, I hope, for Izzy to get back on track. I want to see Izzy do well. I'm a big Izzy fan. I want to see him do well. But yeah, if Joe Pyfer wins, that's a huge name. He's not fought anyone of the level of an Israel Adesanya. And he'd end up being on a 4-fight win streak, and you think the UFC will be pushing him into big, big spots. Yeah, if Izzy gets this win, he's such a big name that one win over Joe Pyfer and then he could be in a title eliminator because he's Israel Adesanya. And Hamzat versus Izzy would do big numbers. I think it would only go one way. I think we all know that Hamzat would just take him down and mash him up. But people would watch it. I do believe people would watch it. So we'll have to see what happens there. I'd like to see Izzy rematch Strickland, actually. That's a fight I'd like to see. But it looks like Strickland is fighting for the belt next, isn't he?
That's the only fight I'm interested in watching Evloev. I'm not that bothered. I'm just not that bothered. Like,
What by Izzy?
yeah, I'm not. And
really,
yeah.
Let's just go through the. Go on, tell me why.
Like,
Izzy. He's one of the great. He's the second best middleweight of all time.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, like and I used to love watching him, but I don't want to watch these former champs keep getting finished. Like, it's not that interesting, and I don't want to see Israel become a gatekeeper. Like, I don't. I'd rather, if I had to watch Israel Adesanya, I do not want to see him fight Joe Pyfer. I think, like, I'm not that excited by that at all. Get yourself over to Netflix and fight someone really fun. Who? I don't know. I've not thought about it, but I'd much rather see him fight some older champs and legends. And do I want to see him start getting beaten by the likes of Joe Pyfer? Nah, I'm not interested.
Well, if he loses to Joe Pyfer, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think get yourself out of your UFC contract, go and get some big money on Netflix, do some boxing or kickboxing fights. Do some fun stuff. Just enjoy yourself, make big money. If he loses to Joe Pyfer, but if he beats Joe Pyfer, let's say he knocks out Joe Pyfer. Are you telling me you're not interested in watching Izzy fight in the UFC anymore?
Fight who?
All right, let's go. Let's have a little look. Well, Sean Strickland.
But that's not. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, you wouldn't care about him fighting Renier de Ridder?
No.
Or Gregory Rodriguez?
Oh God, no.
Because again, he can't really rematch Dricus or Nasruddin anytime soon. Kyle Borralho?
Yeah, I'm
Brendan
not mad
Allen?
at that. But no.
Brendan Allen would just take him down, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But he might not. That's the thing. We've had loads of fighters before that were like, oh, they'll just take Izzy, or they'll do their best to take Izzy down, and they haven't always been able to do it.
Yeah.
Like, Dricus rocked Izzy on the feet.
Yeah. What does that say? What does that say about Izzy then? Like, he's getting outstruck by people that you'd presume were going to grapple him.
Yeah, but Dricus is. We know Dricus is weird and tricky. Like, that is like him and Izzy and Robert Whittaker both were both like, this is what I don't know what he does, but it's so weird and awkward, but it really works, and I can't understand it. Yeah.
That's been my favourite part of all of this, is seeing that Izzy's his training partner's been Bobby Knuckles for this, and I'm loving that. I'm loving that. Look, he's an absolute legend, and I don't want to see him take another KO. I just don't want to see it. I just think he's going to start. What I don't want to see him is for him to become like a BJ Penn, where it's like he just lost, and it really putting a dent in his legacy, because he's just fantastic. I loved his walkouts. His walkouts were so exciting, but you knew the confidence in them walkouts, because he just thought, I'm the best fighter on the planet, and he knew that, and he would deliver that. And I just think, when he finished Pereira, it was so good. It was so good, and my God, did anyone think in a million years Sean Strickland was going to beat him? And then I think when you're losing to like Evloev and Dricus, I think his time in that elite echelons of the top five, and that I don't see him having much joy there, and so that for me leaves him in the peripheries of the top 10, where he's either going to be fighting hungry up and comers, and I don't want to see it, because that's essentially what's happening at the weekend, isn't it? And I don't.
Well, that's already happening, isn't it? Yeah.
And I just think, don't do that.
I agree with you. If he loses, I don't want to see him in the UFC anymore. I want him to go and make some big money doing some fun stuff elsewhere. Um,
Perfect scenario would be that he does get the win, right? This is me being
yeah,
super optimistic, right? He
yeah,
does get the win, and what we see is another run like we saw of Jose Aldo, where he just went on after
yeah,
losing some fights, went on a tear again, and it looked like at one point he was going to get another title shot.
yeah.
That would be great, but I just can't see it. I can't see it.
Another potential guy for Netflix against Mike Perry if Mike Perry beats Nate Diaz. Mike Perry up at middleweight against Israel Adesanya.
What a
Netflix, that'd be a fun
oh
one.
mate, that'd be
I'd watch
amazing.
that. I'd
Yeah,
watch that all day long.
that ain't going to the
Um,
grand.
that's not. Um, I mean, I'm just looking up. Like, obviously, we've just said Israel Adesanya, unquestionably the second best middleweight of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Um, uh, I'm looking at the first best middleweight of all time,
Sean
and I'm
Strickland, yeah.
looking at obviously you're Sean Strickland, yeah. um, Anderson Silva's run before leaving the UFC. I mean, it's not great. And I
Oh
don't know if there's any
God.
parallels that could end up being made here between the first and second best middleweights of all time, and similar fight styles as well. Um, but you look at from the moment Anderson Silva lost the belt in 2013 to Chris Weidman, rematched Chris Weidman, obviously that horrific broken leg. Uh, then he's got a no contest against Nate Diaz because he was done for performance enhancing drugs. Then he's got a loss to Michael Bisping. I lost to Daniel Cormier in a very weird fight where he had to go up to like light heavyweight or whatever because Jones had to pull out. And was that the UFC 200 or something? Maybe I can't remember. But that was a weird old fight. Then he's got a win against Derek Brunson. And then his last UFC fights, lost to Adesanya, lost to Jared Cannonier, lost to Uriah Hall. And Cannonier and Hall were both first round finishes. No, Uriah Hall, sorry, was the fourth round. I misread that. But either way, they're both finished in his last two fights there. So it's not the same as going on potentially a 4-fight losing streak, which is what Izzy's staring down the barrel of if things go badly against Joe Pyfer. But yeah,
I love the
these
fact that
legends of the middleweight division.
you've literally wrapped today's episode by just completely ruining Anderson Silva's career. Let's
But
just spell it out. Let's spell it out. Just how tragic
no,
his career ended.
it went.
Popped for
Well,
drugs
do you
and
know
then
what?
lost to him.
Yes, but post the UFC, he's probably made a good chunk of money by winning some boxing fights, having some weird draws in boxing fights, losing to Jake Paul, but then beating Tyron Woodley. So he's making his money. He's had loads of fights since the UFC. Julio Chavez Jr., Tito Ortiz, where he beat both of them in a boxing match. Exhibition boxing draw, which is just weird things against someone I don't know. Lost to Jake Paul. Draw with Chael Sonnen in a fight that I'm pretty sure Anderson Silva was just playing around with him. And then a win over Tyron Woodley in a boxing match. So he's earning money. He's still fighting. This is the kind of thing I can see happening in the future of Israel Adesanya, just going having some fun excursions into boxing and
But
whatever
do
else
it
he wants to
now.
do.
Do it now before you've got that big legacy of losses. Like do it now
Um,
and go and make some money. Like, why there's still hype around you because you know, Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall, like that was a fight that no one needed to see. It was like,
mhm.
and I think nobody needs to see Izzy versus Joe Pyfer. Like no one needs to see that fight. Like, and
Will the UFC let him out of his contract though? That's the thing.
I think let's see what happens this week. If he gets fucking knocked
Yeah,
the fuck out again, I think they're
they
going to be
might
like,
do.
we have got a bit of a duty of care for this guy. Do you know what I mean? We can't just
Well,
keep
I
watch.
I don't even think it's that. I think they'll be going, right, he's on a 4-fight losing streak. He's lost some of that kind of sparkle that his name usually brings. He's on a big wage.
Yeah.
Israel Adesanya will be one of the highest earners in the UFC. So let's just get rid of him and he can earn big money elsewhere because do they want to pay? Again, the UFC in 2026 don't want to pay big money at all, but especially not for someone who's on a big losing streak.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be the end of Izzy there. But I think he could do well and earn great money elsewhere. The
Yeah.
only other fight on the card that I think is worth chatting about is Grosso versus Barber at flyweight. Grosso's on a 2-fight losing streak, and before that a draw. And before that, she was the champion of the division. So she's only lost to good fighters. I think it was Shevchenko the draw, Shevchenko the loss, and then Natalia Silva, who I really rate highly and should be fighting for the belt next. But she hasn't won a fight in 3 years. Those fights were over, a 3 year period. So been a long time since she's tasted victory, and she's up against Macy Barber, who is on a 7-fight win streak. And if Barber wins this fight, I think her next fight could be for the belt. I don't think she should leapfrog Natalia Silva, but I think she can sit, wait, and fight for the belt in her next fight if she beats Grasso. Number 3 against number 5 at flyweight. I think that's a decent main and co-main for you in Seattle on Saturday.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, before we wrap, all is left for me to say is head over to Fat Candy, give them a follow on the socials, use that discount code Sweet MMA. Other than that, we will see you next time. Thanks ever so much for listening. Go give us a follow over on Instagram and TikTok, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.